as mentioned in the agenda. Now what we'll do is we will look at section 1 and discuss planning in great detail. The very first aspect of planning is that it is the most important step in creating an effective presentation. Let us discuss what goes in planning. Before that, let us understand why planning is so important. Planning basically helps you decide on the content and the order in which your information will be presented. It is not just important to create content, but also to visually represent and to visually deliver that content. This is so important because your message should reach the audience. Your purpose, your objectives should be understood and followed by your audience in order to make your presentation fruitful, meaningful, and of course effective. So what all goes in planning? Let's have a brief review in the next slide. There are certain steps in planning that we will look at in this particular session. We will start with a systematic process of understanding these particular steps. What are they? We have step number 1. Step number 1 basically speaks about determination of the purpose of your presentation. There are several aspects which can be covered by delivering a presentation. These aspects are: is your presentation going out to inform people? Are you educating people? Is your purpose of presentation to deliver some objective or mission? Is this to persuade people to your cause? All these can be types of presentations which can be planned by determining the purpose of the presentation. Let's look at the next step of presentations. This step is determining the audience. It is a very important aspect to understand who your audience is. Let me tell you a quick story and an experience from my past few years in KPIT Cummins. I have worked for an international company which is called as KPIT Cummins. Here we planned a presentation by a notable speaker. The speaker was from the top management from our company. The audience which was decided was mid-level managers. Unfortunately, there was a client visit during that day and the managers could not come and attend this particular training session. We had to go ahead and call a few trainees for this particular session. These trainees were inexperienced and were college people who had just finished their engineering courses. Speaker, whatever he spoke was not understood by his audience. Thus, whatever good aspects or good tips the presenter gave, the audience could not understand. This left the speaker embarrassed and the audience confused. Hence, what you need to do is you need to determine your audience. A lot of times you need to flex in order to cater to various audiences. So planning helps in this process as well. Step number 3 speaks about gathering your information using the KISS principle. A very interesting acronym given to a very powerful technique or principle. KISS stands for keep it short and simple. Well, what you need to do is you need to keep your presentations short and simple. If you have noticed, the norm of presentations is a lot of material crammed on to one slide. I understand this is precious real estate, but yes, today's presentation skills require you to use optimal space without creating a crowded atmosphere or crowded places on your particular slides. Hence, it is good to use the KISS principle. The KISS principle can be easily used by using graphic data. Data which you can speak of. Data necessarily should not be in terms of a lot of points or bullets onto your slides. There are some famous presenters who use the principle of keeping 3 or 4 bullet points on each slide. What this basically does is it helps you understand information easily, and it also saves you from a phenomenon which is called as death by PowerPoint. And this is not for you, but it is for your audience. Your audience is saved from this painful phenomenon. Otherwise, there will be a lot of monotony which will happen and will render your presentation ineffective. After having discussed step number 1, step number 2 and step number 3, we will go to the next slide and understand a few more steps related to planning. Here we continue with the steps in planning, and we cover the aspect of steps number 4, steps number 5 and steps number 6. Step number 4. Yes, what we need to do is we need to sketch out slides on paper before actually going ahead and putting them onto a PowerPoint presentation. Why is this required? Well, it's very simple. You can easily employ paper and do a lot of scratch work and rough work in order to enhance your slides before they go out onto an actual presentation. Paper gives you more visibility and is a faster and a better medium in order to create a rough picture of your presentation. Having followed step number 4, let's look at step number 5. Step number 5 basically speaks of determining the order of your presentation. You need to do that in order to create a logical flow to your presentation. You need to weave out stories out of your points, and in order to do that, you need to understand your presentation in and out. How is this done? Well, as I just said, you need to determine the order of this particular presentation. Finally, step number 6 is the last step, and it speaks about creating the presentation. After having understood steps 1 through 5, we can easily create a fruitful presentation which will have a very good effect on the audience, thus creating effective presentations. After having understood 6 steps in planning, let's look at planning for contingency. Yes, as you have realized, planning for contingency is very important. Why is it so, and what other contingencies will be looked at and discussed in this particular slide? The very first contingency that you might face is no power supply. In large cities like Pune and Mumbai, we have a constant problem of fluctuating power supply. Frequently, we might have this particular problem. Hence, what you need to do is, at times, you need to make use of notes and the white or the blackboard in order to deliver presentations. Thus, please do not use your PowerPoint presentations or your laptops or your PCs as the last aid or resource. Always have a contingency plan in place. The next aspect says no speakers. A lot of times I have encountered problems where the sound system or the mics do not function properly. What do you do in such a case? Is it the end of your presentation? No, it is not. Definitely not. What you need to do is you need to use your voice and project your voice. Your voice is the best vocal medium to make people understand aspects. So if you don't have a mic, you can project your voice. Be loud, so loud that your voice is projected to the last person in the audience. You can also check for clarity and acknowledgement by asking questions to the last member of the audience. Am I audible? Is my voice audible? Is the kind of questions we can ask to counter this particular contingency. Last but not the least, we have the LCD malfunctioning. In this particular case, the presenter can be the best visual aid. The presenter can go ahead and present on the whiteboard or speak about the presentation. In order to do all this, we need to plan. Planning is of quintessential importance. Hence, all this relates and filters to a backup plan. You need to have a backup plan in order to make your presentations effective. If your presentation needs to be effective, plan before you deliver and plan before you prepare the presentation. This was a crucial section in understanding presentation skills from the point of view of the presenter. Let's look at the next slide, which speaks about a video on planning. Planning is very important, and I've reinforced this particular concept through the use of a video. So let's start looking at this particular video.
Preparing your presentation. The first place to start in thinking about becoming an effective and efficient presenter is your preparation. It's worth remembering that prior planning prevents poor performance. So how do you prepare? Well, here's what I do. I take out a blank piece of paper, whether I'm doing a 5-minute presentation or a 5-hour presentation. And what I do is I write down on the left-hand side why, what, how, what's next. So the why. Why is your audience listening to you? Why are you listening to me right now? Well, I'm guessing because you have a presentation coming up, or you do presentations and you want to get better. So that's the why. The what? What are you going to be talking about? So in this video, I'm going to be talking about preparation. The how are the skills of how you apply whatever it is that you're sharing with the audience. And the how here, of course, is the why, what, how, what's next formula. The what's next is their call to action. What will the audience do after you finish speaking for 5 minutes or for an hour? What's the call to action? Are they going to think about something? Are they going to take action? Are they going to email you back? Are they going to buy your product? So thinking about your topic, you need to have a why for the audience to engage them. Why are they listening to you? What are you going to talk to them about? How is that going to impact them? What skills are they going to learn, or what information do they need to process? And finally, what's next? What do they do at the end of the presentation?
So having seen this video, I hope you have got valuable add-ons. Yes, these value adds are very important, and I hope this video was fruitful and was acting as a reinforcement to the concepts that I have discussed in the previous slides which relate to planning.